Hello, my name is Erica, and I work in special education as a teacher. And I wanted to discuss with you about teaching special education, and maybe this might be something you are interested in pursuing. So, I find my job very rewarding. It's amazing to watch the progress of my children, especially when there are some people who don't think that they can do certain things. And it's just very rewarding to watch them grow and learn. And potty train them and diffuse situations and behaviors and even reading sight words. Some people didn't think they could read, and years later, we've gotten them to read sight words. So it's amazing to see what we can do with these children. I'm going to share my screen. And these are a couple of quotes that I really like to read. Every student can learn, just not the same day or the same way. Abilities outweigh disabilities. And one of my favorites, I work with children that have autism. See the able, not the label. I really do enjoy that one. So during this presentation, I will be covering what we do in special education. Our main goal is to promote independence, communication, and differentiation. Now that I've established the three main goals that I'm going to cover, I'm going to start into my very first one. It is promoting independence. So I'm going to share my screen again. Promoting independence boosts confidence in our children, and so that they can become productive in anything that they do. So, some ways we promote independence is we provide choices, we avoid doing things for them, we don't make things too easy, we set goals, and we work with service providers and their family so we all can be on the same page. We also, a big thing we do is promote positive reinforcement. The more praise they get, the more excited they get, the better they do. So here's one thing that in our classroom we're working on with some of our children. It's in their IEP goal: hand washing. Hand washing is big. So we have a step-by-step schedule that they can use. And then over here, we track their data. And so turning on the water, getting their hands wet, getting soap. We first try to see if they can do it on their own. If they can, we put an I for independent. And then if we have to prompt them, we put a P next to it. So this just keeps track of our data so that we can just know what we need to work on, what steps we need to do next. So moving on to our next, or my next point, is communication. Oh, sorry. No, independence. I have one more slide on independence. I'm sorry. So in our classroom, we have task boxes. They are given to them every day. They have 3 to complete. And it is at a level that is easy. It's something that they have already mastered, just so we don't need to be right with them, teaching them, helping them. This is given to them. This is where they have to match the number 0. Then what comes next? 1. And it has that little model right there. So this is given to them so that they can do this independent by themselves, and we don't have to sit right there with them. So they are given 3 of these a day, and we normally rotate these out once a week. Okay, so next is communication. So it is very important for children to be able to communicate their basic wants and needs. So every week we go over one core word during our morning calendar. And we go over this, we sing a song, we practice using it all week. And normally these are the core boards are a collection of 36 most commonly used words in the English language that can be used as a way for our students to communicate. And it is set up so for many different levels. We've got a big core board, we have little core boards, and they're manipulative. And then if they even have them in Braille, so if you have a child who can't see. So we also have some other things that we use to promote communication. We use signing times. We watch this every afternoon for about 20 minutes. Some of our children are nonverbal, so we are teaching them signs. We have an AAC board, which is an augmentative or alternate communication device. So if they want to if they can't communicate their numbers, they would press the number 1 and it would say 1. We have a picture exchange system. Some of our children use these boards. So we would put this in its I want, and then they could use the pieces to say what they want. Also, before I move on to differentiation, when a child cannot communicate, sometimes they get, let me stop sharing my screen, I'm sorry. So sometimes they get frustrated. And if they can communicate what they want and what they need, this will lessen their frustration levels. This will lessen outburst. Because normally when they have their outburst, the main thing is they can't communicate what they want, how they feel, if something hurts. So a lot of the times, that's why they get aggressive. So if we can figure out a way for them to communicate, whether it be the PECS board, the communication board, that we have step-by-step buttons that they can press. If we provide many different ways for them to communicate, something will work for them. So lastly, I'm going to discuss differentiation. I'm going to share my screen again. And so my next slide. Okay, we have children learning to write. So here's an example of a model of a child's name. Her name is Angelina, and she can already trace. So the next step above tracing are these little boxes, and it keeps them in the line so they know where to stay. So they're not like writing all over the paper. They have these little boxes they stay in. So we have many different ways. We break it down for them. Tracing, writing with a model, writing words in boxes. Another thing with our lessons that we use Made for Me Literacy. They have these different levels of work. So when we're working with color shapes, for instance, this one is small or bigger shapes and less of them. So some of them may need this worksheet. Some of them can maybe handle doing more shapes and coloring more. So we kind of base it on what each child needs. Also, other ways you can differentiate in the classroom, and this does not only have to be with special needs children. This works with every child. One-on-one, whole group, small group, modified assignments, which is a lot what we use, ongoing assessments. Each child has different learning styles. So if you can kind of find out what the child's learning style is, you can better meet their needs. And so that kind of wraps up my presentation of kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis with our children in a special needs classroom. I work in a self-contained classroom, so they stay with us majority of the day, and they sometimes will go out for recess or lunch, encore. Right now, not as much just because of COVID, but we work on independence, communication, and differentiation, modifying assignments. So I'm going to end with a Bible verse that I found that I thought was very appropriate. It's Titus chapter 2, verses 7 and 8. Show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, to that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. So I hope that gave you a little insight on what I do in my classroom in special education, and maybe it's something that you may find rewarding and may want to do as well. So thank you for listening, and I can answer any questions later on after we are finished.